everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome to the deep and difficult-to-navigate caverns of the comic book vault. Today we're going to talk about Batman No Man's Land Volume 4, which really fixes a lot of the problems I had with the third volume. And before we really get started, I want to mention that apparently there are a lot of issues not in these volumes. I mean, a lot. I haven't really done a ton of research to find out just exactly how many issues had the No Man's Land banner over them, but I've been told by some folks that have read the other volumes, the new volumes, and who some of whom have read the issues as they were coming out, that there actually were a total of 80 issues in No Man's Land. I'm going to have to look at this and try to corroborate that, but apparently there were that many, and these only collected half of them. So some of the problems I talked about in 3 and in these volumes in general are probably fixed just by reading the issues that aren't in these. I would imagine that there's probably, for instance, better setup for Cassandra Cain and stuff like that. Now, I don't know that for sure. What I do know is that there is a lot of stuff in the novel that's not in these, and I doubt that Greg Rucka came up with all of that himself. So, anyway, as I've been describing problems with these volumes, understand that it's not necessarily issues with the story of No Man's Land as a whole, which again I always think of as the novel more than the comic books, because that's more of a cohesive whole, and there don't seem to be really important bits missing. He left little things out here and there. Superman isn't in much, or if at all, of that book. But anyway, so as I've been reading these and reviewing them, a lot of the issues I'm talking about are with the reading of the graphic novel. I mean, of the trades. So anyway, jumping into 4. This has some of my favorite art and some of my favorite stories from No Man's Land. I really, really love the Bane stuff and all of the mystery and political intrigue of who is coming in to fix No Man's Land. We find out that toward the end of this that for political and for monetary reasons, the United States is considering lifting No Man's Land and fixing it up. But of course that would, as Gordon says, cost billions of dollars, and who's going to front that kind of money? And so there's this big mystery about it, and of course at the end of this we find out who it is, and I'll mention that in a minute. Once again, as I've been saying with these reviews of No Man's Land, I'm spoiling things. Part of the point of this is to tell you stuff that happens in this, as well as give my opinions on it, and so if you don't want to know, don't watch these videos. Okay, so Bane shows up at the beginning, and I just love how Bane's written in this. He's fantastic, and I can really see where Nolan was coming from in writing, in how he wrote him for Dark Knight Rises, because his grammar, syntax, the way he talks in this is a lot like he does in the movie. And basically what he does is he has, just like in Dark Knight Rises, he's got these really elaborate plans, and he knows just what he's doing, and he decides to break into No Man's Land, and it's like, what? Why would you do that? And he rigs up this truck so that he can, so that he's got a ramp, and then he can drive another truck over it and get into No Man's Land over the broken bridges, and it's really fun to see. There's a lot of really thrilling action in this, and a lot of it comes from Bane. Bane comes in and keeps saying, I am going to be the king again. He wants to be the king of Gotham, and he thinks that it's his birthright to do this. And this really is his comeuppance for what happened to him in Nightfall. And now he's kicked Venom. He doesn't need Venom anymore, so he no longer has his super strength. And what's kind of fun is that his arms are still drawn like he's got this huge super strength, but he's built himself up like that. But I mean, when he fights Batman in this, Batman's able to fight him much more easily because, of course, he doesn't have Venom in his system anymore. And so he comes in, he's got dynamite, and he's going to destroy the Hall of Records. And, well, actually, I'm sorry. He uses dynamite do other stuff earlier on, but a little bit later. Okay, basically the whole it's an elaborate plan. Basically, the whole idea is he's got dynamite, and he's going to use that to break into this kind of cavern where he has hid some little nuclear bombs. Yes, these tiny nuclear bombs, and I guess that's where maybe that's where the idea for a nuclear bomb in Dark Knight Rises comes from. I'm honestly now a little bit less irritated with the whole nuclear bomb thing than I was with Rises, because Bane's got him in no man's land, so that's kind of neat. And he breaks into that, and there's all these like death traps that he set up, and so he finds these people close to there, and he kills all but one of them. This Hispanic woman who's really fun. She's got kind of some spunk to her, and she'll actually talk back to Bane even while he's using her, and I really like their relationship together. It's kind of fun to watch them. And so what happens is Bane, and I don't even know if she's named. I'm not sure what her name is. But anyway, Bane takes this girl, and he kills all of her friends that she's with, and or if they are her friends, but I mean they're together, and he says, I only need one, and he spares her, and then he reveals that the reason he spares her is because he needs somebody with him to help him with certain things. The first being that he needs someone to walk in front of him because he doesn't know exactly where all the traps are that were set before he gets to the nuclear bombs. So anyway, So ultimately his whole plan is to destroy the Hall of Records, and so Batman's big question is, well, why does well, really, he kind of figures it out. Batman's like Bane wouldn't have any reason to do that himself. He just wants to come back in and take over the No Man's Land. He's doing this for himself, but he's working for someone else also. Again, kind of similar to Rises, except here he says that he's just letting the person who hired him think that he's in charge until until such time as he decides to reveal what his real plans are. And I love stuff like that. And Bane's he's great in this. And so so anyway, so he destroys the Hall of Records because he was hired to do that. And then toward the end, he finally gets to meet his employer. Now, he doesn't know who he's working for, and there's this other woman who comes into No Man's Land, and I think is able to get in, facilitated by what Bane does, I think, and she's there to, again, facilitate the arrival of her employer, who we find out at the very, very, very end is Lex Luthor, and it's a really cool reveal, and we find out that she's Mercy, and ultimately, of course, the whole idea you find out after No Man's Land is that this is kind of Lex's elaborate scheme to ultimately get elected president. Part of the reason that he gets elected is because he saves Gotham and gets it out of No Man's Land, and he's declared a hero for doing that, and that's part of how he manages to get the nomination for president. So anyway, that's all the really interesting political intrigue stuff going on in the background, and I like that it takes that it takes politics to save No Man's Land, because it would, because it's politics that closed it down in the first place. But of course, it wasn't popular, and so ultimately, all Lex has to do is front up the money, and the government ends up, ultimately fixing No Man's Land, obviously, after this. Other cool things that happen in this, there's a lot of short stories in this again, except that they all feel more relevant than some of the ones from the last trade. I should talk about Gordon and Bruce, because they finally have a conversation. And what's kind of cool is that it's so hard for them to talk to each other that there's actually 2 full pages where they stand in Gordon's garden and kind of look at each other and look around and say nothing for like 2 pages. It's kind of powerful stuff, actually, and I'm saying that not liking the way it was handled up to this point. Now, let me explain why that is. I simply didn't like the fact that it was made such a mystery as to why Gordon was angry with Batman, like I said last video. Because he doesn't really give a lot of reasons. He pretty much just says, oh, well, I'm mad because he left for a while. But it's obviously more than that, and we're only able to glean what it is from other people speculating. And I didn't really care for that. I didn't know why we couldn't just get into his head a little bit. And here, we finally get it from Batman and Gordon having a conversation. And Gordon brings up the fact that he, like I said in the last video, that he went to other cities and tried to get a job. And it turns out that I was actually wrong about what I said. I thought that he tried to get a job being a commissioner. He would have been okay just being a detective. He didn't expect that he could just go to another city and become commissioner, but he couldn't even get a detective job because of Batman. And so what he says to Batman here is, since he left, Gordon. Since A, Batman left, and B, nobody takes him seriously, he starts, like I said before, second-guessing ever working with Batman, and he says, everyone was making fun of me, and I started to wonder if you were making fun of me too. Like, I wasn't good enough at the job, and I needed a vigilante to do the job for me. And Batman, of course, says, well, no, that wasn't it at all. Gotham's this very different kind of city, and it needs somebody who can do things that cops can't. And so Gordon says, yeah, but you never gave me anything. You always operated in secret. You always run off in the middle of sentences. He even brings that up. And finally, Batman says, okay, I'll give you something. And he takes off his mask in front of Gordon. And it's a really, it's a wonderfully dramatic moment. And Gordon turns away, and he won't look. And they never talk about the fact that Batman's real name is Bruce Wayne, and he says, put it back on. And Batman says no, you need this. You need me to show you who I really am, so that because I want to be your friend. I want you to see me as a partner, and I don't look at myself as above you. And all of that was just fantastic, and solved all the problems I had with the third trade, except for just the fact that I still didn't understand why we couldn't get into Gordon's head a little bit, but. Then Gordon, of course, won't look at him, and you get the sense that he probably really does know that he's Bruce Wayne. He even says, if I'd wanted to find out, I could have found out 10 years ago. According to this, they've been working together for 10 years. And he says, I could have figured that out if I'd wanted to know. And so the whole point of this ends up being that because Batman makes this gesture, they're able to patch things up. It's not important that that Gordon turn around and actually look at him and see these Bruce Wayne. It's that Batman treats him like an equal. And anyway, all of that was fantastic. The other really, really great part of this, besides the really fun Bane stuff, is the trial of Gordon by Two-Face. Two-Face puts Gordon on trial. He manages to kidnap him. And he's had Montoya kidnapped for like 5 months, and he ends up using her as his bailiff, and he puts Gordon on trial, weirdly, for teaming up with him in the first place. And it's really interesting how it goes. And so they have these really cool pages where they'll put one person's head to the side and then all the question and answers on the other side, so they don't have to do it all in panels and they can do more of the process of the courtroom. And I really like how that's set up. It's a really cool way to use the comic medium in a different way and not have to have everything with dialogue balloons, because then we can get more conversation than we could have otherwise. And of course, Two-Face is kind of making a mockery of the court, and he doesn't see it that way, but of course that's precisely what they're doing. I mean, there's only 3 people there, and if Gordon is found guilty for all of his crimes, then Two-Face says that not only will he die, but he's going to kill everyone. He's going to kill all his family and all the other cops. And so Montoya says, well, you're making, Montoya and Gordon both, you're making a mockery of the court. And Two-Face just kind of says he doesn't see it that way. Well, without going too far into it, because it's kind of complicated, and honestly, if you can at least get these issues, you should totally read this part yourself. Not that I'm Not that I'm, hiding anything that happens, but you really should read this yourself. It's fun to experience it. What ends up happening by the end of this is he finds him guilty, and of course he had found him guilty at the beginning, really, and Gordon says, I deserve a defense. If this is going to be a real courtroom, I have to be defended. And Two-Face says, well, you're not an attorney, who's going to defend you? Because Gordon at first wants to defend himself. And he won't let Montoya do it either, because she's not an attorney. And he says, I want Harvey Dent. So then Harvey Dent defends Gordon against Two-Face, and they argue. And Two-Face and Harvey Dent have one of those pages where they argue against each other. And ultimately, Harvey Dent wins, and Two-Face ends up conceding and lets Gordon take him into custody. And tells Montoya, don't forget to read me my rights. And it is a great scene, and probably the best Two-Face stuff I've ever read. I really like it. There's a follow-up for Superman, and I said last time that Superman only pops up that one time that I remembered. I forgot about this. He comes back so that they can kind of follow that up a little bit. And he walks the streets as Clark Kent, which is really cool. And he's there now just to kind of get a lay of the land and get a sense of really what, in the long term, needs to be done for No Man's Land. Rather than just trying to solve everything as Superman like he did before, now he's here as Clark Kent, so he can get a sense of what really needs to be done to solve all the problems in No Man's Land. And he says that he's learned a lot in the last 5 months, and Batman mentions something, by the way, about Superman trying to take over the whole world at some point. The Superman comics weren't real popular at that point. I don't know about really anything that was going on besides just, I think just after this with the whole, I think it was just after this that they did the whole Superman as pure energy thing, or perhaps it was just before. Honestly, I really don't know. I wasn't reading them. Really, after Reign of the Supermen, really nobody kind of cared about Superman comics for the next few years. And anyway, so I have no idea what that's even a reference to, or what was going on in the Superman. That's how insignificant the Superman comics were at this point. I have no idea what they're talking about. But it's really cool that they follow it up that way, and that Clark is trying to experience No Man's Land. This ends with the Joker finally making a big appearance. Now, we've seen him a total of twice before this. He doesn't appear at all in the third trade, and in the first two trades, he pops up one time just so that you kind of know that he's around, but he's laying low. And here, he's making a plan to finally strike and try to draw Batman out. And anyway, we'll get into all of the Joker's plans in the fifth and final trade. I think that's everything I have to say about this. The art in this, I think, is my favorite, actually, in all of this, because, like I said, I like a lot of the art in the first trade. Here, now that we're getting a little bit closer to eventually to eventually bringing Gotham back into civilized society, and also that this is a lot more about Batman's villains than it is now about the experience of what it's like to live in the No Man's Land, because we've kind of explored that, and now we're getting really the thick plot stuff. I really like how polished most of this, actually really all of this art is, and just how pretty this book is. We've got Dale Inglesham again. We got artists Matt Broom, Damian Scott, Mike Diodato, Rick Burchett, and Paul Ryan as the pencilers. The writers in this book were Greg Rucka, Devin Grayson, Chuck Dixon, and Larry Hama. So, like, really, with the exception of Bob Gale, really the powerhouses of No Man's Land. That's everything I want to say about this one. Thanks a lot for watching. Next time, one more volume of No Man's Land left to go, and if I can get my hands here in the next few months on the new trades, I really do kind of want to do vaults on those also. Obviously, I won't go back over all the stuff I'm doing here. I'll probably, if I do those, I'll probably go through and kind of pick out the stuff that was missing in these volumes. That might be kind of fun to do. And I've been told that while there's 3 out right now, there's still 2 more coming. I don't know if that's true. Again, I should have done some research before starting this this video, but if there really are 80 issues and they're collecting them all, that would that would be necessary. So anyway, don't take my word for that, but I'll find out, and anyway, thanks as always for watching. If you ever want to send anything for me or Vince to review on the Comic Book Vault, single issues, trades, whatever, send that to Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. I'm Captain Logan, and happy reading.